Today I am cooking 30 full meals for my family of 7, plus breakfast, plus snacks. And yes, this starts with coffee because that is how this particular kitchen works. I'm not pretending that I wake up energized, organized, or spiritually aligned with my pantry in any way. I wake up functional. Coffee is not a vibe, it is an infrastructure around here. So while that's brewing, I've already been pulling ingredients out of the fridge, turning the oven on, and giving the counter just enough attention that it doesn't start personally offending me about halfway through today. So you'll notice I'm grabbing things straight out of the pantry instead of staging them for you guys, partially because that's where they live, and partially because I cook like someone who plans to use this kitchen again tomorrow. No performance, no rearranging reality. Flour goes into the food processor. This helps with the butter that's getting shredded. And everything moves straight into the mixer. No overthinking, no waiting to feel ready. Biscuits are first, and that is intentional. Not because they're exciting and not because they're aesthetic, but because biscuits solve multiple problems later on. These are going straight into the freezer with sausage for biscuits and gravy, which means 8 breakfasts are handled before I have even finished my morning mug of coffee. Okay, my second mug of coffee. Once this dough comes together, I can't help but smile at you guys just because I get so excited because you know what sort of day it's going to be when the dough is mixed and it's working together. The oven is hot and it's ready, momentum is moving. I can go ahead and flour my rolling pin and start rolling these out. You do want these biscuits to be on the thicker side, anywhere from a half an inch to an inch. And yes, this is a child's cup that I am using because it's the perfect tool for the job, and then I don't have to buy any other added accessories for the kitchen. I try to keep it as minimal as possible in this house. And as far as the cup goes, if something works, it stays. It doesn't have to be fancy, I just need it to be repeatable. When everything is working together like this, the biscuits are loaded into the oven, everything is staying busy but productive. My decisions are very minimal. It makes me very happy, which I think comes across very clearly on camera. So once I get these biscuits into the oven, I move straight into one of my favorite kinds of meals, the kind that doesn't ask you a lot of questions or require a whole lot of work. So that is where these Parmesan garlic chicken legs come into play. It's almost embarrassingly simple, which is exactly why it earns a top spot on today's freezer meal batch cooking day. No marinades, no timing gymnastics, no finish this later energy. Parmesan goes into the bowl first, followed by onion powder, paprika, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. Nothing fancy, nothing precious. Just flavors that actually hold up after freezing and show up when this gets cooked later. This is one of those instant wins that keeps the day moving ahead of stalling out, and that matters more than the recipe itself. Right now, the biscuits are ready, and honestly, this is my payoff moment. They come out of the oven hot, and before I even finish setting the pan down, the whole room has a shift in energy. I spray a little bit of olive oil over the tops and crack one open. There's steam everywhere. Butter goes on immediately because we are not pretending otherwise. And right on cue, one of my kids pops into the frame. Because biscuits apparently activate a sixth sense in children. It's not planned, it is not directed, it is just what happens when real food shows up. And this is exactly why biscuits get to go first on days like this. They will buy me goodwill, they will buy me patience, and they will buy me uninterrupted cooking time for the next stretch. While that's happening, I'm also pulling bacon out of the oven, not because I need it right this second, but because batch days are about thinking one step ahead without making things complicated. The oven is already hot, the pans are already dirty, so bacon now means more options for me later. It means future meals get easier without any future effort, and you'll see this rhythm often repeated here a few times. It's very intentional. This isn't about one perfect recipe moment. This is an assembly line cooking situation. Same motion, same setup, multiple outcomes. Once the sausage goes onto the sheet and into the oven, breakfast officially becomes a part of the system too. Because now we've got the biscuits, the sausage links, and I already have sausage gravy in the freezer. which means these gallon bags are not a guess. They are a plan. Biscuits and sausage are bagged together, so future mornings don't require any decision making, motivation, or optimism. You grab the bag, you heat it up, and breakfast happens. And yes, dinner for breakfast absolutely counts. I will not be taking questions on that. Before moving on, you get to see one of my favorite kinds of moments, the kids at the counter with fresh biscuits and homemade basil jelly. This is again just what happens when biscuits come out of the oven. They're happy, I'm happy, and honestly it's a good reminder why I don't stress about making things look perfect for you guys. Next up, I am de-skinning chicken thighs, which is exactly as fun as it sounds. This is not a romantic step. This is not a slow morning in the kitchen moment. This is just one of those jobs that makes everything else easier later, so I get it done while I'm already in chicken mode and my standards for comfort are low. Nobody glamorizes this part, but skipping it is how meals get really annoying later on. So I knock it out in one go, the skins are off, I separate everything very intentionally. The chicken thighs go in one direction, cleaned, trimmed, ready to be turned into actual meals as I hit my hand accidentally on the desk as I'm doing this voiceover. And the skins go in another direction because they're not trash. They are going to go into freezer bags, and later on, not today, they're going to get thrown into a huge stock pot with vegetable scraps and turned into a big old batch of chicken stock, which is going to save me a ton of money, and it's going to taste way better than the stuff that you buy on the shelves in the grocery stores. Which is going to land us right in the middle of making potato soup in the crock pot. This is one of those immediate wins that doesn't need a big introduction. It's simple, it's forgiving. Once it's started, it can quietly take care of itself in a corner of the room, and that is exactly what I want anytime I'm going to use my crock pot on days like today. Low attention, high payoff. I dump everything in, I turn it on, and I let it handle itself while I move on to the next task. No stirring, no checking, no hovering. And then after that, we can switch gears onto snacks, which is where the melon cups come in. We grow melons in our garden here, and if you've ever bought those little pre-cut melon cups at the grocery store, you already know how offensive those prices feel. I mean, 1 cup of fruit and suddenly it's $5. So instead, I grab these deli containers that hold about 2 cups, cut the melons into bite-sized pieces, and we just make our own. Same food, same idea, way less money. And you get to watch the whole process because this is one of those systems that feels almost too obvious once you've done it, but it changes how my entire week runs. When healthy snacks are already cut up and prepped, people actually eat them in my house. And when they're not, they will sit in the fridge until everyone in our house has forgotten that they existed in the first place. So this one is about as low effort as it's gonna get. You cut up the melons, you put it in a cup, and we can move right on to the next freezer meal, which is going to be honey sesame soy chicken. It's pretty simple, guys. This one is about as low key as it's gonna get. You're gonna take honey, you want about 1/3 of a cup, and then you want about 1/8 of a cup of soy sauce, some minced up garlic, and ground up ginger. You can customize it to your preferences. All of the recipes that are ours will be on our website. You're gonna whisk it together, toss the chicken in, make sure everything is really nicely coated, and then straight into that freezer bag. No stovetop yet, no extra steps for this one, no convincing myself I'm gonna feel like dealing with it later. It's just setting it up so future dinners don't have to require any motivation. And just to be explicitly clear here, although you might see 1 bag being made, on days like today I am doubling or tripling all of these batches, because if I have to go through the process, I want to know that I've got extras backed up from here to Kentucky so I don't have to worry about it. Once those bags are done, I've got pots going to the stove for pasta, and one thing finishes, the next thing is already starting. You don't have to stop and rethink. You don't have to go through decision fatigue because, oh my gosh, if we do not struggle with that day in and day out when we're taking care of a family or even trying to decide things for ourselves. So next up is one of those freezer meals that I was genuinely excited about going into it. This one's called Addictive Chicken, and it's been floating around the freezer meal internet for quite some time now. The chicken goes straight into the freezer bag. I add a few tablespoons of ranch seasoning. Then I crush up some bacon. You add in that block of cream cheese and a handful of mozzarella. And in theory, this turns into a very comforting dinner. And honestly, it wasn't bad. It wasn't offensive. It was definitely edible. But it also wasn't one of those meals that makes you stop and go, okay, we're doing this every month forever. And that's a really important part of batch cooking for me that I feel like people don't talk about enough. Not everything you experiment with is going to become a staple. Some things are always going to end up just being decent. But I love food, and I need you guys to hear me when I say this. I love food. So because of that, probably will not be making this one again, and I certainly would not build my whole freezer meal plan around it. So while that bag gets sealed up and set aside, I've got multiple pots going on the stove for the pasta. And this is one of my favorite visual moments of this entire cooking day. Lots of steam, lots of movement, and multiple things working at once. This is where the kitchen starts to feel busy, but in a good way. Not chaotic, not stressful, just productive. One meal finishes another one's already in progress, and nothing is waiting on me to make any sort of decision. So next up, I am working through a whole pile of green peppers, and this is one of those moments where batch cooking and real life are going to overlap in the best way possible. I'm not rushing through this part because these peppers aren't going into one thing. They're gonna get used in many different meals, and this is exactly the kind of prep that quietly saves you later without asking for any extra credit. And almost immediately, you're gonna start seeing little hands appearing in the frame. Because apparently, today, green peppers are a snack. And this is one of my favorite kind of kitchen moments. The kids are wandering through, grabbing pieces of food, asking what's for dinner, and deciding that whatever's happening here is interesting enough to be a part of at that moment. At one point, one of my younger ones is going to pop her head into the frame, smile at the camera, grab a pepper, and then walks off like she was always supposed to be there. No hesitation, no self-consciousness, just confidence and a snack. And I love her for it. These are the moments that I never cut out, because this is what cooking at home actually looks like. Food isn't separate from my family life. It's happening right in the middle of it. Conversations, interruptions, snack breaks, and all. And once the peppers are chopped, they're gonna get dumped into a big old bowl, and this is where they officially turn into the base for tamale pie. This is one of those freezer meals that doesn't look impressive in the bag, but once it's cooked, it absolutely delivers. This is exactly why I freeze things like onions. I don't have to stop, cry, chop, and clean on days like today. They're already done. Once everything's in the bowl, I can throw in some of our homemade taco seasoning and mix it all together until everything is combined. The mixture goes straight into a gallon-sized freezer bag, and later on when it's time to cook, it just gets browned on the stove like regular taco meat. And then we'll go ahead and take cornbread batter, pour it over the top, bake it, and it becomes tamale pie. It's absolutely stunning and super easy if you've done the pre-work ahead of time. So next up is Mississippi-style pot roast. Then comes the part that always makes people stop and question their life choices. An entire quart of pickled pepperoncinis, juice and all. And I know how this sounds, but stay with me. The pepperoncinis don't make it spicy. They don't overpower anything. What they do is add this deep, tangy richness that balances the beef once everything cooks down. It's one of those ingredients that feels really aggressive at the beginning, but then absolutely corrects at the end. We get a stick of butter in there, a few tablespoons of ranch powder, and a few tablespoons of beef bouillon powder. I can just put the ingredients in the pot, let the roast do its thing, and it's done. We used this in 3 different ways and made shredded beef tacos, au jus sandwiches, or you can just serve it as a classic pot roast. Up next, we are making buffalo chicken spread, which is basically buffalo chicken dip's more practical, more flexible cousin. And this one is dangerous in the best way. I started with cream cheese, minced up garlic, smoked paprika, and white pepper. And yes, I am doubling it because if I'm getting that food processor dirty, we are not going to be doing a test batch. We are committing. This is one of those recipes where making too little is actually a bigger mistake. This is where one of my favorite unscripted moments of the day happens. You'll see my husband casually wander in and out, sneaking bacon and sausage like he thinks he's being subtle. He's not. And then once he realizes he's been spotted, we get a full-on happy food dance. Zero shame, zero regrets. This is the energy I want in my kitchen. People wandering through, food getting sampled, nobody asking permission, and that is how you know things are going well. I did go ahead and add in some of the chopped green peppers that we've been using all day, not because you have to, but because it's an easy way to work vegetables in without changing the personality of the dish. And then comes the real reason this meal exists in the first place: leftover buffalo chicken. Earlier in the week, we had made buffalo chicken with homemade buffalo sauce, and it was great. But it was also more than we needed, and instead of reheating it again and hoping people were excited for round 2, I turned it into something new. This is one of my favorite batch cooking moves: letting leftovers evolve instead of repeat. That chicken goes straight into the food processor with everything else, and once it's blended, it's not leftover chicken anymore. It's a completely different meal. You serve it over a toasted baguette, open-faced, and it becomes a buffalo chicken sandwich that feels way fancier than it actually is. So this one's handled, and we can keep moving right along into our Kielbasa sheet pan freezer meals. So this one is almost aggressively simple, I think is probably the best way to put it. I start with kielbasa, slice it into pieces. I'm pulling out some blanched potatoes that I already had in the freezer. So it all goes straight into a big bowl, still frozen, and I can build everything else around it. So we add in again some of those bell peppers, the same ones we were chopping all day, and at this point they're officially multitasking. This is how batch days actually work in real life. You prep one thing and then you intentionally reuse it everywhere that it makes sense. And I feel like sometimes that's why you see meals like this get overlooked. They don't impress well on camera. They're not flashy, but they're the ones that not only get used, but enjoyed. And that's what counts when you're hungry and tired at the end of the day. Caesar bacon pasta salad was shockingly good, and I do not say that lightly. This is one of those freezer meals that people don't expect to work, and then it absolutely does. And the reason is because we are not trying to fight the pasta physics that happen in the universe. Most pasta in the freezer gets weird because you cook it and then you freeze it and you cook it again. And that's a long emotional journey for a noodle to take. By the end of it, the texture is tired and nobody's excited about those noodles. The secret for those is to completely undercook them. However, we're going to skip that problem entirely because this is a cold pasta salad, which means once it comes out of the freezer, you're not reheating it at all. You're just thawing it, and that changes everything. So I start with the chicken, and today I'm using chicken that we pressure canned at home, following food safety guidelines. Thank you very much. And I don't know why, but canned chicken just tastes so good. There is something outstanding about the flavor of pressure canned chicken. I don't understand how it occurs, but they turn into just jars of magic. It's tender. It feels like it's seasoned when it's not. I don't know why. I don't know the science or magic behind it, but it's just, it's so good. And it blends into dishes like this really well without drying out or taking over everything. So you take it out, you shred it, move on to chopping up some bacon, about a cup. And yes, this is real bacon. This is not a moment to be minimal. You don't want fake bacon in any of your dishes. Bacon is one of my love languages. You're going to go ahead and add about a cup of Parmesan cheese, and then you don't have to really worry about measurements. It calls for around a cup of Caesar salad dressing, but if you are heavy-handed with your salad dressing, you go right for it. And if you're not, then that's fine too. It's very forgiving, very customizable, and really hard to mess up. I mean, you really can't mess it up. You're going to add maybe a third of a cup of lemon juice, and then you're going to mix it all together. Put it in your bag, put it in the freezer, and ignore it. But here's where the magic comes in. You're going to go ahead and take that bag out and let it thaw. And once it's thawed, you're going to chop up romaine lettuce into 1 inch by bite-sized pieces and mix it into the dish. And it gives it this crisp, clean crunch that resets absolutely everything. It tastes fresh, intentional. No one would ever in a million years guess that this came out of your freezer. Honestly, this is the kind of thing that you can throw into a container and show up at a friend's house or a family gathering and just quietly win the day. Up next, we have pesto chicken. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple. All you need is a cup of pesto, homemade or store-bought, some heavy whipping cream, with about half of a cup of ricotta. That's your sauce. Pour it over your chicken, put it in your freezer bag, and you are good to go. Then we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We're going to take barbecue sauce, and we're going to add about a third of a cup of honey to this, add in some minced garlic, and mix it up. If you're like us and you enjoy spicy food, add a tablespoon of cayenne to this, pour it over your chicken, and a few hours in a crock pot, and you'll have spicy honey barbecue shredded chicken for sandwiches. We actually made this twice, like most things, but a non-spicy version for our little ones because they don't like the heat just yet. Next up are Danishes, and I need to be very clear from the start. If I had to survive on one pastry for the rest of my life, this would not be a debate. This would not even be a conversation. Danishes. Always Danishes. I love them. I think about them more than is reasonable for a person to think about Danishes, and I am absolutely not even going to try to act normal about it. And listen, yes, I can make puff pastry from scratch. I have the skill set. I have the butter. I know the technique. I also have ADHD. These 2 facts coexist very loudly in my life, and today we are choosing peace. So instead of turning this into a laminated dough endurance event, I am using what is already here and calling it a win. That's not cutting corners, that is system thinking. We start with a block of cream cheese straight into the food processor, followed by powdered sugar. That's what joy is. Next, we go with our imitation vanilla. And yes, imitation, because it has a very specific cake batter flavor that regular vanilla just doesn't give you. If all you have is real vanilla, that's totally fine. This is not a purity test. We are not doing moral judgments over extracts today. Then you're going to throw in a pinch of salt to pull everything together, remix until it's smooth and creamy. Then you're going to remember that this also requires 2 egg yolks and put it in the way normal prepared people do over a trash can under pressure, like it's an emergency situation. Those go in, everything gets blended a 3rd time, and now the filling is officially handled. I also have ADHD. Filling is officially handled. While that's happening, I'm going to dust the counter with some flour, roll the puff pastry out just a little, not thinning it, just waking it up and cutting it into rectangles. Onto the parchment lined sheet they go, and into the oven. Flaky pastry, creamy filling, sweet fruit on top. This is the kind of food that makes you stop mid-bite and quietly reassess your priorities. And then, because the universe loves its timing, the power goes out. On camera, midday in full storm mode. At that point, I just kept moving. I just set the trays aside, let everything wait politely, and when the power came back on a few hours later, we just finished it like nothing had happened. Because that is the whole vibe of this kitchen. Keep cooking, keep it simple, use what you have, do not waste the puff pastry. And with that, the lights came back on, the Danishes got finished, the freezer was full, and everyone was fed, and my whole day wrapped up. Not perfect, not precious, just real food, real systems, and a kitchen that keeps working even when the power doesn't. So from my kitchen table to yours, I will see you next time. Bye, y'all.